We'll call the meeting to order. Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could just ask everybody to remain standing for a moment. Obviously, we're all aware of the terrorist attacks that were perpetrated on Israel and the events that are unfolding there, which are unbelievable. And so I just actually got off a phone with all of our area rabbis, having conversations with them and let them know that Fairfield stands with them. But I just hope that everyone will keep Israel in their prayers. There's a lot of horrible things happening there and have happened. And I just wanted us to have a moment of silence and prayer and reflection. Thank you. So, when was our last meeting, Chair?
August 29th.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, August 29th. Okay. So, just to recap for those who may not be familiar, maybe watching or in the room, we put this working group together in an effort to have a different process than we've had in the past, where there was, just a capital list that kind of just, once a year, what I would really refer to as sort of show of all the events, but no one was really sort of making sure that these things were getting done. It was sort of getting done based on whatever the current leader was choosing. So I thought it was best to have members of each of our funding bodies, our Board of Ed, our Board of Finance, our RTM, we're engaged in the process of building the list. So that's not just a once a year thing, and that we actually have working group meetings. And I personally think it's been beneficial having these discussions, really delving into the projects and having conversations between both the education side and the town side about where do we want to see ourselves next year and where do we want to see ourselves in the next 5, and be able to sort of plan that out. So we're back together, and I'm unfortunately, I don't know if others, it says waiting for other, we don't need to click.
Nobody else is there.
Okay. Unfortunately, some of our members weren't able to attend for one reason or another. But I wanted us to have the opportunity to go through some of the things. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave early myself because I have a commitment. So I could stay till about 4:30, 4:40. But I wanted to start off with police and their projects. So Deputy, I almost called you Captain, Deputy Chief Wyatt.
Thanks for having me. First thing we're going to talk about is our building rehab project. And there's really nothing new to report other than Antonazzi Associates was awarded the RFP project architects. Quick recap is that there are several spaces that need renovating. The space is no longer serving their function. Wear and tear over years, large increase in female officers needing additional space to accommodate their needs. This is a 3-year multi-phase project utilizing ARP funds. The major aspects of the project are the lobby, the shipping office, our classroom / community room, and the associated technology to run that room, the parents' locker room and facilities, and the old emergency communication center space that we're going to convert into a building center. So right now, last I heard, we're just waiting on all parties to sign the contract so we can move on to next steps.
Thank you. I'm going to open up to the group. Any questions?
Yeah, just one. So, I mean, after this work is the project, are there any other long-term type of renovations to the building, to the facility that you guys see coming down the road?
No, this is really all-inclusive. We're trying to get our building up to meet all of the needs that we have right now and for many years moving forward.
Okay.
Well, I think it's, more like, what is our 5-year, right? I think there's some plans to do, maybe, I've heard both fire and police talk about sometime in the future, maybe doing a sort of public safety campus with both departments. But that's It's one of those things that are sort of what we're here for now.
Right.
We have so many other things, but it's nice to think about it. Does anyone else have any questions?
Okay, the second item, I apologize for any inconvenience I may have caused by somebody. It's early in a kind of last minute conversation with the chief. We're not entirely confident that we have exhausted all potential options to meet this need. So we would like to table this discussion for now. If anybody has any questions.
Which item?
Which
Oh, I'm
is,
sorry, that would be the rescue vehicle.
Oh,
It was included in the packet that was sent out to you. Yeah, it was a rescue vehicle. I left it out because I knew they weren't, in the last minute that they weren't gonna, present on it, so it's not in your hard copy.
when you say you're not going to present on it, it's just, you're not ready to do so,
We're not
but
ready.
you will be at some point in the not too distant future here.
This may be the proposal
Yeah.
as is now, but we just want to make sure that we've looked into everything.
Yep. Okay, understood.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Me too. Take care. Fire.
Ready?
Radiant fire.
Good afternoon, Dennis McCarthy, Fire Chief. We had three projects. The first was that we had in our waterfall was for renovation or addition to the apparatus. That's not ready to move forward because of the station study. We've probably proven to delay that project until the station study is complete. Although I don't think that station study will impact Station 2. It just seemed premature to bring it forward without the station study done. So we have two projects that we're presenting this year. First is $600,000 to continue the rehab of our facilities. This is an increase from what the projection was, primarily due to the fact that we've gone out to bid. The bids have come back, and I'm sure that you've seen with all construction work that the fire exceed estimates that may be a little bit dated. And we have bids for this work for all the bathrooms at Station 1 on Reed Road, ranging from $480,000 to $630,000 or so. So we're requesting $600,000 so we can complete that. We wouldn't use the highest bid, but there is some work that is not included in the bid that we received that we would have to contract separately for, particularly asbestos removal. So this will take care of second floor dormitory bathroom for men and women, separate bath spaces. This is built in 1954. So you can imagine there is a lot of inherent challenges behind those walls and beneath that floor. So we're anticipating some of those challenges. There is a bathroom on the first floor. We'll convert to a handicap bathroom and two other ancillary office bathrooms that will renovate with just fixture replacement. And that is the complete project, and it's based on bids that we've received, and our request reflects the increase that we found when we went up to bid. I'll pause there if you have questions about that project.
Any questions about that project?
No.
Okay.
The second project is $130,000. We have a mechanics maintenance vehicle as a heavy-duty pickup truck with a utility body and a crane on it. Allows us to service vehicles in the field or at any of the stations. Given the weight of equipment that they will be managing, we require that size vehicle, and it will replace a 2012 mechanics pickup, which will be passed down to the assistant mechanic. And we'll get, as you know, that we try to get the longest service life of all of our vehicles by having them in front line and then as a reserve. In this case, it will be passed, this vehicle will serve as the assistant mechanics vehicle for his use to do apparatus maintenance when the master mechanic's not available.
Any questions on that item?
No, but can I just ask you, Chief, a question about the station survey that you're doing? What is the goal of that?
So the station study, the purpose of the study is to evaluate the location of all of our existing stations. What the response time is to all of the neighborhoods in town. And determine are the existing stations in optimal or near optimal locations for that response time issue. And or are there additional stations that are needed in order to achieve the response time? Two things, response time and simultaneous calls for service may dictate that an additional station might be required.
So it's an operational analysis. You're not necessarily looking at the status, the physical status of the stations.
No, that work has been done.
Okay,
And we made it clear in the RFP that a complete assessment by the architect has been done.
right.
DPW has that priority list of repairs. So that work has been done. We've done our own internal assessment of all the facilities. So we have a very good handle of the building envelope, the building systems, what needs repairs. This is more so what are the response time, as you say, an operational assessment.
So it's possible that a study like this could come back and say, hey, Chief, you need an additional station here.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, yep. And before we do, and as you know, we arbitrated a contract. And in that contract, there are additional staffing. We reserve the right to relocate them to a new station should the study recommend.
Are we, in a study like that, are we obligated to accept its recommendations or do we?
No, we're not.
Okay.
No, we're not. What we are asking the consultant to do is prioritize a list of activities that the town should consider. Part of that process is they will engage with all of the stakeholders, which will include the Board of Fire Commissioners, the union, the select woman or the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and the community at large for their input. So all the stakeholders will have an opportunity to participate in the study, but it comes back to the town to make a investment based on the recommendation.
Right. Okay, great.
And this is just born out of the discussions with, during contracts and with the fire department. Union was, needing so much staff, so the town has obviously changed in a long time, so we thought, let's just do a study.
Makes sense.
you
Yeah.
know, of all our roads, population, all of that. And are our stations in the right places? Do we need another station?
Yeah.
That information is really valuable for all of us to have. So it was something that we thought was a good idea.
No, I agree. It's a smart thing to do, but, and the reason I'm asking the questions for the purposes of this group is just to get a sense of, again, are there potential capital expenditures coming down the pike as a result of perhaps?
Well, there could potentially be. I mean,
Yeah.
based on what the study says, we're gonna have to have a discussion about it, town bodies, because if it does say, for example, we need to maybe add on to a station or add a substation somewhere, that's gonna be a capital cost and a priority because of public safety, so.
Very good.
Chief.
Thank you very much. You don't mind if we don't stay?
Good night. Thank you both. Anthony.
You're up, Ann.
All right, good afternoon, Anthony Calabrese, Director of Parks and Recreation. Before you guys, the only project I'm proposing for this upcoming year is a playground replacement of the playground at Lake Mohegan. As is the case with many of our playgrounds that you guys have heard over the last couple of years. They're all 20 to 25 to 30 years old, this one included. In the whole scheme of the 30 or so playgrounds we have, we've replaced a lot of them, a good chunk of them due to the ARPA funding and the investment from this board, Board of Finance, RTM, and everybody. We still have another 9 more after this one to go. So again, just kind of putting them in priority list and bringing them forward year after year. We're looking for $150,000 to do this project. Pretty straightforward. Happy to answer any questions.
What does a renovation of a playground look like? As one who actually hasn't been to a playground in a while.
It takes about 3 weeks. 1 week, we typically handle all the demolition and removal of the playground in-house with either parks guys or public works guys. Then the contractor comes in, they set all the equipment, and then we put the wood fibers, typically the wood chips, back in, and that takes about 2 weeks.
So you're buying like new swings and slides.
Brand new,
all that kind of
all
stuff.
the old stuff comes out, all the new stuff that's up to code comes in.
Any additional questions?
For me on that one.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
Anything to do with those splash pad, right, Anthony?
Nope. Have a good
Okay.
He's like, nope,
Nope.
I'm ready. The paint, whole word.
Right.
All right.
Angeles, Mike?
You can just come up here, Angeles, if you want.
It's gonna be just as
Yeah.
quick and easy.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And nothing, right?
Nothing that's not pressing.
Something big. He's got books, he's got. Is this a facilities plan?
It's not the
No?
long range, no, it's just this year's.
Do we have an updated facility?
Plus I have copies
Not that document, but just
I
the
don't know.
waterfall.
about those
But the one that you're
in
thinking,
there.
that goes through each building and the deficiencies
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's the latest one, I think, Angeles can correct me, it's like 2016, 2028, last updated 2019.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Is that online?
Is that our facilities book, that hasn't been updated?
When's that last?
It has not been updated. I actually spoke with the chair of the facilities committee just last week about that.
Updating it?
Yes, so we are gonna start taking on that
Oh, that's good.
now that, and what led to that, so you know, is
I think it's before like Holland Hill was renovated,
It's
so
all,
it's just,
as the former chair of that facilities committee, I know it very well. We did a great job on ours. It
still working on it.
was awesome. Plowed through all that stuff too.
Just so you know, one of the reasons that, we talked about updating it and we're working on updating it now is after the work over the summer, the identifying the classroom, full-size classrooms, what are classrooms used for, we felt that there's a lot of room for.
Oh, for
changing.
deficiency changes?
Yeah, so deficiency changes and updates on those, so.
For the upcoming projects,
Yes. Got one more.
small spaces.
This is Sabrina Bernardi, who is our financial analyst. We hired her 3 weeks ago? A month ago. Time flies.
Welcome aboard.
Just coming on board for the BOE piece.
So she'll be doing a lot of our capital analysis and our capital plan work, so we'll see her more often now.
Hey, hi. Okay,
So good afternoon still. So, as you know, we have two projects we're actually requested to go before the Board of Selectmen on Monday's agenda, which thank you for approving that. That's the Holland Hill partial roof replacement and the North Stratfield roof replacement projects. Those are the two that are pressing, and we ask that they get moved up on the agenda because, as you know, the state reimbursement rate takes a while for us to apply. We have certain deadlines we have to meet, and if we want to get it out to bid sometime over the holidays, now is the time we got to get those approved. And again, that's the Holland Hill and North Stratfield roof replacements.
Are
Other,
these being moved? Are these being moved?
the North Stratfield roof replacement was moved forwards on the waterfall. The McKinley one was moved back to make room for it. The
Got it.
reason being with the air conditioning projects currently going on and going to start next year, it didn't make sense to put new equipment on a North Stratfield roof, which would have to be replaced the following year on the waterfall. So we swapped them around and made room. North Stratfield's roof is still holding strong and doing well, keeping the building dry. So we were comfortable making that move,
How old is that roof?
which
North Stratfield?
North Stratfield, I don't have the date. Actually, I do. I'm sorry. '91. So it has three sections. There was a 91, a 96, and a 2000. And we had a
Big warranty.
warranty of 2016 and 2020 was the last warranty. So the 20-year, 2000 update roof section, the warranty was out in 2020. So it's about 3 years out of warranty. And then the 91 was in 2016.
Right.
So it's been holding well, but at this point it's in need of replacement.
Okay,
So that's why this is.
okay.
Is the swap out similar dollar for dollar?
Based on the information we have, the North Stratfield one is higher at this point than the McKinley one, but the McKinley number was light, we feel, based on, it was a pre-COVID number, so installation materials have all going up in the time. We will be working on, updating that number as time goes on, because we do have the funding approved to do the design specs for the McKinley roof. So we will be working to get that number finalized before, and we can update the waterfall accordingly. So those are the two roof projects you'll see. Roger Ledlow Elementary School, Roger Sherman Elementary. I went there, I shouldn't say that. Roger Sherman Elementary School is a boiler project you'll see on your waterfall, on the cash flow and waterfall. This project was slated to be designed this year with a replacement of the following year. We feel that because there's some issues with boiler two, it would make sense to move it up and do the entire project this coming summer. So that's why you're asking for the full amount as opposed to just the dollar specs and getting information at that point. So that's why the Roger Sherman was updated, because over the summer, we did about $8,000 or $9,000 worth of repair to get us through the winter. And we couldn't even get a warranty on that type of work because of the age of them and how they're failing. Once again, like Burr, we will look at updating them to multi-section like we did already, but still high efficiency versus the old cast iron sectionals that we have now. So we would hope to get a higher efficiency, better rate out of that. So the next project you see, I should have stopped. If there's any questions, please stop me. Just talk.
We're not a shy group.
You're not a shy group. The next project you'll see here is the Roger Ledlow High School bathroom project. This was approved by all town bodies 2 years ago, went out to spec design. We did the internal workings. We scoped all the water lines, drain lines to make sure the bones structure of the building were in good shape. We didn't want to just put a clean bathroom on top of failing infrastructure. So we did all that work. And we actually did design and went out to bid, and the bids came back, and we actually have bids now, but we've realized, as the chief had said, construction costs have gone up so much over the last few years that we're $1.061 billion shy to complete this project. So we're asking this year for the additional funding so that we can move this project forwards and as soon as school gets out this
So
coming
so the total project is 2.1 million. You need the additional
The 2.1 was the original approved fund. The 1.061 is what we were shy for the actual bids that came back. So it would be the
So the project is more like a
3.2, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Red or updated or
Updated, yeah.
additional dollars?
Okay.
So those are the four projects that we have before you today. Then I'm gonna move down below the line here. So North Stratfield, Osborne, and Fairfield Woods are vestibule projects that originally, when we talked about doing the air conditioning, indoor air quality, we were talking about grouping, because at that point, there was no funding for the grant that was available from the state. So the talk was to group the security vestibule updates into the HVAC so that we could apply for a state reimbursement through the Oscar program for those projects. Since then, a lot has changed. We got a grant, thanks to the superintendent who worked very hard to help us get granting funding. So we were able to get the grants for the indoor air quality for those three buildings, which was great. But we felt that it wasn't the best time just to pull the security vestibules out of there. We wanted to keep them moving. So now you'll see, we originally asked for the funding. We're not asking today or down the road for the additional funding, but we wanted to make you guys aware of what we feel is a better number fit based on what the current market values are doing. So that's what so for instance, the North Stratfield is 652 was the original ask and approved funding. 189.1 is where they think we are shy for that project. I'm saying best numbers we have at this point, the building committee, once assigned this project, which will be on Monday, hopefully, will take on this and start with the design work, and they will lock in, once the design work starts and the bid documents are finalized, they'll be able to get better numbers, better understanding, and that's when the number will come before the Board of Finance, all the boards for approval, once we're able to lock it in even tighter than where we are now.
So the project hasn't changed. It's really just the cost.
The cost, yes.
And
it's not
moving
the
it
scope.
into the building committee out of the BOE.
So that's where those are. And then the big one that everyone keeps talking about is the air conditioning upgrade project. So this is, again, this is the 15.489, which is now that we have design documents and we're getting ready to go out the bid, they feel that this is where our shortfall falls, is about the $15 million shortfall. Approximately 10 of that is the Fairfield Woods project. There was some talk about, I don't like to use the word, when DTC did the initial assessment, they missed areas. I don't think they necessarily missed areas. The scope was more of a broad scope when they did the work. Now that we're at the design document phase, we are able to lock it in better and look at where things were falling off or not quite captured with the original DEC report. So this is a full scope, we believe.
So is the 22,
22.7 is what is approved.
right?
This would be a $15 million ask approximately. Again, we're not asking for this at this time. The board of the commission, building committee for this project will eventually ask for this funding, but they're still locking it in, but we didn't want it to be a surprise for this working group. We wanted, the best number to date is what is in this book. So that's what we had, and we wanted to make.
I had heard some, something about this being a bigger number than was originally, Jason Lee said the number was off by a lot.
Well, the 22 went to the 15, so it's $15 million off from the original ask,
So it's 15 more,
15 more.
So it went from a $22 million project
to
to
38.
37.
That's a significant, it's a significant jump. I mean, listen, I think there's sort of an elephant in the room here that we probably should talk about a little bit today and onward that, and with the board, tabling redistricting, which I think was smart. And that we need the buildings. You've decided we need all these buildings. I think I think the facilities committee needs to go back and start looking at these buildings. White needs something. We're gonna use that building, if that's building staying in play, and it seems like that's what the board's gonna do, and Jennings is staying in play. Obviously, I don't watch all of your meetings, I'm sorry, but, I try to keep abreast of the situation. You're talking about wanting to build an ECC, work at Jennings, work at Dwight.
Yep.
These are big numbers, right?
And the
Um,
AC.
Yeah, so the space issues that I read about that you guys have, some space issues, and listen, I'm not a contractor, but Dwight needs, in my opinion, you need a brand new building. I just think the building is done, that it needs a brand new building. So, listen, this is just my opinion. I'm not the Board of Education. You guys do what you do. I do what I do. I think talking about buildings, like what are we doing with our buildings? And are we going to be building new buildings? And that's why I was kind of prodding Nick, a while back saying, what are you doing with your
Yeah,
facilities?
the buildings are on our waterfall.
I know, but I'm just saying, are they going to be moving because of the need of the space and?
Yeah, so you have the updated waterfall there. One of the things.
They are
we did
moved.
do
Oh,
is
okay.
we moved the Dwight
These two?
design. We have the waterfall and the cash flow. The waterfall,
This one?
that's the cash flow, the waterfall is the other one there.
Okay.
You see Dwight, we moved design and seed money up to 25, 26 fiscal year so that we can get it designed. Normally, we ask for that money a year before a project. We actually, we're gonna ask for it 2 years before a shovel goes in the ground.
Yeah.
So that, as you said, we feel that probably gonna be a new building that needs to be done there, so we need to look at sewer lines, we need to look at topographical, so there's a lot that's gonna go into this design. We have, it's been a long time since we've designed and built an actual new building, so we felt the 2-year window to get that work done would be appropriate.
Need that much time.
It's 24 months by the time we do surveys for topographicals and we get sewer line, talk to the town and DPW for sewers. Feel it's gonna be that long. And get a building committee on board, get a state reimbursement, lower, and we did apply the lower rate for the reimbursement on that one because it would be a new building. So
We're looking at,
Post,
for a cost on that.
so go all the way over to the far right column.
Okay.
Estimated district share. Town, if you want to put it.
Got it.
That's based on, new, not renovation, which has a different reimbursement rate.
Sure.
It's also built on an expansion to a 504 capacity. We're at 378 right now, whether or not we play with that number or not is to be determined by the board. It also includes sewer, so I think, I know that the town has got a lot going on with the WPCA. So for our purposes, and if you don't know it today, but it's gonna be helpful to understand. I don't believe there's any intent by the town at this point to run sewer up Reading Road. At this point, but that's gonna be helpful for us to understand as we go into this project, whether or not that is even a possibility or not. Otherwise, we'll be looking at septic, back to a septic. So irregardless, the $15 million will fall under already falls under the building committee. So it's not really in our purview, just for those who don't necessarily understand how things happen, who may be listening. Once it's with the building committee, it's up to them. They are actually coming before us tonight,
Oh, okay.
just so we can get a better handle on the numbers and things like that. So asked them to come for us, so they're on our agenda tonight.
That's good.
We're gonna dive into these numbers a little bit more in deep. There's backup on our Board of Ed website for a breakdown of that $15 million by building, which also might be helpful to some of you here. But at the end of the day, it'll fall under the building committee eventually to come to the town bodies for the vestibules, if should you approve them on Monday,
Yeah.
to move into the building committee. And for you guys to talk about this $15 million for those $3 million projects,
Gotcha.
or the 3 schools, sorry. At this point.
Thanks, Jen.
Sure.
Where is this $50 million for Dwight in?
That's the
27?
new build
Okay.
that Brenda was just talking
Right,
about.
so that's,
Is that, what, yeah, that projection is 58?
For new,
Yeah.
504, which is an increase, it's an addition. It would be less without the addition, obviously.
I think it's,
And you know that, as a state legislator, we get a lower reimbursement rate for our town. State gives less reimbursement for new, more reimbursement for renovations.
how much, do you happen to know what the cost, on that is? Like, how much do you have to? Like, we kept the foundation. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like,
The percentage of old buildings.
yeah, what would we get?
Don't have it with.
It's 58 million. I mean, I remember when we did McKinley, it was 21 million, right? That was 2001.
Or something, long time.
But it just seems to me that's such a huge
10% difference.
inflationary.
Unless we go for a different grant of some kind, or, and that can be discussions that we talk about, but it's a 10% difference. Right, 16.43 to 26.43 is the fiscal year 24. Who knows what it'll be when it eventually comes? I mean, it kind of inches up a little bit every year, but it's a 10% differential as a state, at this point.
So do you know what the percentage is of a renovation, like versus like?
Like, can you take it down to the
Yeah. The studs.
studs?
Right,
so to
and
speak?
would we get more money?
I'd have to pull some research
I
on
think
that.
that's really good information to know. I mean, for you guys
At
to
what
know,
point does something become new?
for everybody to know.
New renovation versus a new building.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a huge nut, right? And if there's some way we could figure out a way.
Or to qualify as a reno.
Yeah.
We go from 26% roughly 26% reimbursement to 16%.
and what you're saying here, if I'm reading this correctly, is the town would be responsible for cost 49 million of the project.
As currently, it's the numbers that we have right now, and under the conditions that I've just gone through, but yeah.
So in my previous district, there was a renovate as new high school where gymnasium, a library was added, so added space. And basically the front of the school ripped off and every classroom, everything was gutted to the studs.
It's dead.
It was considered renovate as new.
Really?
We'll have to
And you
find
got full reimbursement? I mean, you got the full reno reimbursement?
It was considered renovate as new. There was very little left.
So it was basically a new building.
It was basically in a new building. There was walls moved. Classroom walls moved, classrooms.
about like sheetrock and
New boiler, new everything.
It was everything.
insulation, all that stuff,
It was, every classroom was gutted,
air conditioning.
air conditioning, full air conditioning was added. There was no air conditioning in the building.
Challenge with that for this particular building is the ADA compliance because it sits multi-level.
I'm just gonna say,
So
the plot,
we can't just like keep a footing and go from there because we'd have to, the whole front end either have to get raised or the whole back end has to get lowered to make it ADA compliant.
Topography piece of it.
Yes.
so you'd have to rip, like I said, the front of the building off to raise
Look,
it.
it's gonna be a big project, right? I mean, at the end of the day, just a matter of how big.
Yeah.
But renovate is new is
Like you said.
redeploying those children somewhere. Project.
With, you know, and also just considering the ECC and what
Did it
we're,
with the McKinley kids, they all went to different schools.
Yeah, no.
We didn't have a whole lot of choice at
No,
the time, but. No, it's just interesting. Good to know. I'm sorry I have to leave. I apologize. Hopefully we'll be able to have more in-depth discussion. You're gonna be discussing this upcoming board.
tonight.
When does the facility committee meet?
I don't know, in the next meeting.
Third Thursday or fourth Thursday of the month.
So has the board hasn't approved?
Well, we don't really approve the waterfall, only because it's a live document, you know, we don't lock it in, you know, so to speak. So it's a live living document. So we're gonna go over this updated waterfall. We went over it on the 26th. We're going over it again tonight. There were some changes. I think there's gonna be a few more changes and updates before we go to the capital planning workshop. Just some of the reimbursement stuff and whatever else happens on Monday and all that. So really trying to get prepared with as best as a document as we can for the 19th, right? When we all are before the Board of Finance. I think that.
It's not the end all
I
be.
have forgotten one
I
project.
did, I skipped right over it, which is the district-wide air conditioning project, phase 2 through 5. So what,
Is that
I hate to
still
interrupt
going
because
on?
I have to leave, but I mean, that's not the end all be all, the 19th. You know what I mean?
No, but I would like
You're stuck
personally to.
To like that, you know, like
Right.
we're gonna come back here and do our work after. And have discussions, your board's gonna have discussions, so it's not like we have to have all our, you know.
Yeah, I just go with what Angelus tells us for an agenda that's needed for reimbursements and when we need to get our applications in and what, in order to maximize any state funding that we can get. So that's always everyone's priority is to be in line and on time. To be able to maximize, and then to avoid as much escalation as possible.
If you could send me the dates that the facility committee.
Yep.
That'd be good. All right, thank you. I apologize for having a, yes. Apologize for having to leave early, but thank you.
to answer your question, I think the 5 projects you see here, the board is gonna vote on tonight.
Yes.
So those would be approved by the board that they move forward.
The vestibules were not because the request from central office is that they move into the AC building committee.
So we.
So those 5 will get approved. Does the AC increase?
No, those will not be voted on because they're not
They're not under us anymore.
under you anymore. So they go direct, the funding request will go directly to the selectmen and then move on from there.
Once there's a building committee on something, the building committee becomes in charge of the project.
Would you want to weigh in on that?
Oh, we're definitely gonna weigh in on it tonight. We're definitely gonna weigh in it, take a sense of the body, like, you know, yes, of course, like I said, the AC building committee is coming before us tonight to break down these numbers for us and the board will express, hopefully, its support and moving forward with this. But technically, it's not our project anymore, so to speak.
So you'll vote or get
Yes.
some indication from the board
We support the additional funding,
that you support.
them seeking the additional funding.
How does the town typically fund, you know, like 50 odd million for a school, renovation build. Is it part of the standard
It's-
bonding process, or is there separate funding mechanisms for something like that?
I mean, it would be a standard bond. It would be part of the bonding process. Yeah, there wouldn't be anything different in that sense.
And
No,
just- and
that's
that's
the
a lot.
process.
that number, you're thinking of sewers as part of that number?
Sewers are part of that number.
I was gonna
So
say,
that's an important question
What,
about sewer.
what about it?
Sewer being run up Reading Road.
Okay.
There's a portion of this money for Dwight that includes sewer being run up Reading. I don't have any indication is in the plan of the town to do. So if that's not going to be happening, that's important for us to know, because we would then take that money out of the project, right? And then Mr. Papa George would say, okay, well, instead of the sewer, what would it be with septic?
I know that a recent completed building that just opened last month in a neighboring town, elementary school. I think it was built for about 500 kids, 496. I think the number was about 42 million,
Build new or reno?
brand new school.
When did they start it?
They just completed it, so I'm gonna say 18 months ago. It's closed for a year,
Must have been earlier.
so.
You're saying it's in that number? It's in the numbers that you guys have here?
The sewer?
Sewer.
The sewer is, we did include that in there, talking with the town, the engineering department, they had an interest in us doing that. Obviously, it could connect to the school, it could connect neighbors, there, obviously, more neighbors who buy into it would reduce that price as well. There's another town building, Station 5 Firehouse, if they were able to get on there as well. So there was a lot of positive feedback from including it, the conversations about including a sewer line to go up for that school, so that's why we did include it in the planning number.
And how much of this 50, how much of that is it 2 million?
I'd have to look at what our number, where I just have the totals with today, but we did work with the town engineering to come up with that part of this.
That building started summer of 22,
So post-COVID, basically.
post-COVID. Came in a little over 42 million according to a colleague.
Was it a new build?
Brand new.
New site?
Same site.
Same site, okay, because I was gonna say some of this number two is demolition and rebuild of the existing location. Like topographical, again, if we're gonna make a field, if we're gonna take the field, we'd have to replace the field. So there are numbers in there for that. To answer your question about the bonding, you guys could talk a lot better than me than that. But one of the things we do, one of the reasons we do the cash flow is look at a $50 million bond and we break it out for the cash flow. So we're not saying, okay, in 25, we need 50 million. We do the 3-year breakout of it, so. That's for the bond.
Angela says, I look at the cash flow and I go to the last page, and the totals on the last page. So, say, so 25, 26, 27. The totals are super low.
So I apologize. Ms. Jacobs just pointed out to me that I don't have the total for 25, 26. You'd have to take those two numbers and add them. The 3 million and the 9 million. I don't know why my formula didn't carry across. So right here, this one and this one, I don't know why my formula didn't carry across there. I'll have to find out why on that. And then the two, so for 26, 27, you are back up to the black filled line there for the totals. That 26, 27 is a low number for you on there, but please keep in mind that we pulled the air conditioning number out of there because we're working, that's that first project I missed on the request this year is phase 2-5 to get to design phase, so we can plug in back into that number, a truer number for the second phase, third phase, fourth.
So if you go all the way to the end, to the estimated district share where it says 121, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
What are we saying? I mean, roughly
180.
80 more for the rest of the air conditioning. So it's about 200 and ish. Don't hold me to the number, but because what we're doing is we're pulling out this year, we're asking for $973,000 instead of doing it the way we did it before. So that we can get to actual design schematics for the rest of the remaining phases of the AC projects. So that this overage that happened now will be less likely to happen by changing our process to get better numbers up front before approving the project as a whole. You guys follow?
Mhm.
So that's what we're doing.
Just to clarify, we're not changing the process. We're going back to the process we were using.
Yeah.
The phase one part of this, we did not use that process because of the grants that became.
That's right.
Had to move very quickly. So that's where we relied on an older report. We got schematic. We used a estimator to go off of an old report, and that's where we came up with project numbers. We don't like to do that. We like to be at design and have phases. That's why, as you know, for like our roofs, we always ask for the money for the seed money the year before to get to the design phase, so that when we're coming and asking for the funding for it, we're pretty locked into what we're.
So let me ask you guys a question, because I'm not familiar with the processes that you use. So I'm very naive here. How is the process affect the cost? I'm not following it.
The process of, oh, you mean what I just said?
Yeah.
The future costs of the future phases of the actual AC buildings are not on here yet now in this cash flow, because we are going to get those numbers. We have estimates on the waterfall,
Got it.
but the cash flow is not on here yet.
I gotcha.
So that's missing from these numbers at this point
Okay.
until the project we're asking for this year gets completed and we get
I
the
gotcha.
better numbers to
Okay.
insert into the columns.
Okay.
So for phase one, my understanding was for phase one and the increase there in Fairfield Woods, that $10 million roughly. That was mostly because of an upgrade to what's there.
So there were some areas that have,
And then there's an upgrade to what's there.
so there's an additional square footage amount. Again, one of the things that the DTC report lacked was, for instance, they looked at a whole bank of classrooms, said, okay, we don't need to do anything over here. It's already air conditioned. What they didn't take into account is the bathrooms, the hallways, entranceways, that areas, those square footage weren't air conditioned. So that was added to the report. And then there's also an additional area of that building that has some failing units in the classrooms, and it doesn't truly meet what the intent of the air conditioning project, which was to bring in, which was a indoor air quality assessment and upgrade to the indoor air quality. The current units in those classrooms are very similar to a split unit in a house. It sucks air in, sends it through a filter and back out. You're not getting any fresh air in from outside. You're not turning over any air. All you're doing is cooling and recirculating the air that's already in those classrooms. So by adding this, by looking at that, that's where the building committee, who will talk tonight on it, feels that by adding this area will increase the indoor air quality, which is really what the intent of the grant is and the moving forwards, not just cooling air in the building, which is important.
So DTC did the original estimate for
2018, yes.
2018.
They did an initial evaluation, 2018, and they established where floors, what parts of the buildings had air conditioning, what didn't, and that's where we came up with the original pricing. We had an estimator come in off of their report and give that. So as I said, there was bathrooms, hallways, the type of common areas that were missed in that report, because they just came in and said, what air conditioned areas do you have? They looked at it as classroom space. They didn't take into account, there was also a small area, I shouldn't say small, an area in the shop area, like the wood shop and the computer CAD classrooms, that were completely missed on the DTC report. They showed it on their floor plan as being air conditioned, and it truly was not air conditioned at the time. So there was a lot of clarification that needed to happen between the DTC report and the actual engineered designs that we have today. There's a lot of, I want to say missed areas, but areas that were redefined and rescoped to make sure we covered everything.
So was it from the 2018 report from DTC, when you guys came up with these numbers?
Yep.
Numbers that you had in, I'll say in last year's capital plan, were they updated at all? There was some, I
So,
thought there was some kind of like interim.
so we,
that was done.
we took the 2018 report, we took, and this, as you know, the grant came up and they said, you need to be this point in order to apply for the grant. And one of the requirements by the grant was to have a professional estimator, not an engineer, but an estimator come in and look at the report, look at it and put a price on it. So that's what we did. We took the DTC report that we had, we hired a estimating company to actually take the report and put dollar values on the project to come up with the application for the grant. So that's where we came up with it. We internally say, oh, as we always do, we say, okay, this is this, we always put a 5% escalator on it. So we took 18, we said if it's 3 years out, it's 15% escalation. We always do 5 years per year for an escalation. So that's where the numbers came from. And that's where we applied for the state with those numbers.
Can I ask a question? So if you look at the out years, starting in like 27, 28, the net capital total starts going up dramatically. Is that all related to, Dwight, or are there other
That's
projects in
There
there?
are, Dwight is the primary driver of the increase on those. As you know, it's, so there's Dwight, there's Jennings, and then there are some other projects. There's roofs that continue to be
Right.
updated, but the primary are the two, Dwight and that.
Okay. Is everything else like the roofs, HVAC, is all that stuff on like a regular schedule?
We keep the roofs, we have a waterfall for our roofs, and actually, I was talking to our construction manager, I use his title. We're actually coming to actually good spot for roofs. We have some more roofs coming up, and then we feel that I don't want to say done with roofs,
Right.
but we have Holland Hill, we have North Stratfield, we have McKinley on the waterfall coming up. Then we have, the two high schools have small sections of roofs that need to be replaced because of the age of them. And then Dwight and Jennings, but if when we move the project forwards, they would get new roofs. So it actually puts us in a very good position with our roofs moving out. So we'll be able to focus on some other projects such as boilers, like Roger Sherman's boilers, vestibule as they come up. So there are other projects. They never stop with the projects, but the roofs are in pretty good shape. HVAC,
Yeah.
Rooftop units, we replaced 7 rooftop units. Don't hold me to 7. It was either 6 or 7 rooftop units at the end of last year because they were identified as dying, end of life, or unrepairable by our in-house technicians. So we replaced them. We try to do those smaller ones with the operating budget as opposed to going out. We are also replacing the Fitz House rooftop units, the 3 that are left over there. That was a capital request last year, so we are moving forward with those. The other side of that is I always feel like we're running behind now because we asked for the money last year, but
Yeah.
it's not happening until next summer because the lead time on it was 18 months. So it's been ordered for a long time, but it won't be here till next summer.
Are there any other schools like down the road, like 6, 7, 8 years that you might be saying like, oh, no, we got an issue here, it's.
The only other one that's slated for somewhat of a renovation is Osborne Hill.
Yeah.
That one is a smaller renovation, Osborne Hill. Also very deficient in its spaces, especially it's a very highly utilized building as well. So you'll see Osborne Hill has a smaller renovation on here. With the 20, I don't know, I forget what you. Go to Osborne.
Looks like 29, 30.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
So in terms of renovations,
Yeah.
so to speak, it's really Jennings, Dwight, and a smaller one at Osborne Hill, and that's well, what else?
I would just keep on the radar too, the ECC.
Well, yeah, and whatever's gonna be happening with the DC, or if that's gonna be incorporated into one of the different building projects is TBD. But yeah, our need for school space.
Will the facilities committee, will they give you more sense of the the additional funding for Fairfield Woods for the AC. How that got missed, like what?
So there, in the backup, I didn't bring it with me today, but in the backup for the board meeting tonight, there is a full layout as to what the cost is, what associates with what. I can get you a copy of that for each school. So it gives more of a breakout as to where does that 15 million break out and line up with what projects.
I mean, but I guess I'm asking a different question, which is why, like, why wasn't it in the estimate last year, either by DTC or the estimator? I mean, never got included in those previous estimates. It's just showing up now.
So, well, because we're at design, we went out to bid, we hired the engineers. They actually have design documents ready to go out to bid for actually doing the work. And that's where we get, that's locked in numbers as we're going out to bid. The closest thing to actual numbers when we go out to bid is when we get the actual numbers for the project. So having the design done and engineered, for instance, one of the things off the top of my head that they're talking about is, DTC said we need air conditioning in this area. The engineer or the estimator said, okay, to add to the square footage is this number. They use a basic formula, square foot times how much per square foot, around $100 roughly per square foot. Now that we have design phases, one of the things Woods is calling for, the engineers in parts of that building is structural resupport of this roof for a rooftop unit. So that stuff like that wasn't included in the DTC report because all they were asked to do was evaluate the air conditioning, what areas of building are air conditioned, not air conditioning, put a number on a project. They didn't go into the full design details that we have now.
Jared's question though is how DTC missed.
There's a polite way of asking, did somebody screw up?
How did they miss large parts of the building that had obviously no air?
So I can't answer.
No, I don't.
How they missed it, I don't know.
I don't think that's $10 million worth of the project, but I understand the question.
Yeah.
Anders, when they put these numbers together, do they, and I know putting together estimates is a very difficult thing, especially when you're projecting years out, but do they try to put in any kind of an inflationary factor?
We do
These
put
numbers.
we put a 5% escalator in.
Okay, they do.
Um,
Okay, that's good.
Annual,
Yeah, right, that's good.
So
for years out would be 15%.
Yeah.
So if you backed it out, it would be 15% less.
that's what.
So you did it faster. If we do these things faster, it will be less, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah, as people have pointed out, the Dwight project was up in price and then now it's come down a little in price. And why is that? Because every time in our waterfall is actually automated. So every time we move a year, type a new year in that project, it automatically escalates or de-escalates it.
The longer you wait, the more expensive it is.
Unless interest rates come down on the bond.
Right? Whatever. I'm just saying from the estimated numbers, 'cause
I
we're
agree. No, I know
we're
exactly
taking
what you're
away
saying.
the
Yeah.
escalation
Yeah, no, I know.
cost.
I know.
And a bunch of other little things on here,
Yeah,
teeny things, but those are the big.
yeah, it's just the big drop,
Those are the bigs.
Like, would you say, like, in your guys' opinion, like, if you get to 2031, 32 year, you can, with what this done, you've got a new rate, you've got, whatever,
Jenny,
right? It's,
we will not be done.
Something will happen.
Tennis courts, turf fields, there's always
yeah.
bathroom bathrooms have been
I
the
understand,
thing
like,
that we've
like
tried
the
to keep
regular-
up with.
That kind of stuff, like.
You're talking about the
I get.
biggies.
Yeah, like, are your buildings good for say 10 more years? That kind of stuff.
We'll defer to our.
Yeah, I mean,
Our oldest building at that point would be 2000. That
That's right.
point,
Oldest renovation project.
oldest renovation.
I would actually, I hate to do this, but defer to the superintendent only because, from the exercise we did over the summer, maybe there are deficiencies that we would have to, which aren't huge renovation addition projects, but maybe adding 2 classrooms so we could make office space or an OTPT type space. So there's always changes as the curriculum changes and the needs of the district change. So there's always updated changes, but I don't really foresee in my time, rest of my time here, major renovation projects that would move out past the Dwight,
Yeah.
Jennings, ECC and the air conditioning.
And
And
you guys, and I assume you guys, when you project all this stuff out, you do enrollment projections as well to try to get an idea of what you're gonna need to handle.
Yeah, the last set that we got was, well, last June, 2022, we got 10-year. And then as we went through the redistricting conversation, things were updated a little bit as we went through that process. So yeah, enrollment, but also / programming needs, which is a little bit different since is different.
Right. And those I would assume you have less ability to try to forecast because you don't know what's.
That's all student dependent.
Yeah.
Population dependent. Building. And, you know, one of our complications, I'll say, is as we went through this process this last year, so every single one of our buildings is a different building. There's every building, there's
Right.
no there's no batch, right?
Yeah.
So 30 classrooms with 7 spaces, 22 classrooms with 30 small space, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's no apples to apples here, and every building is truly unique, and just as how things got built here, and then we had all those closures in the 80s and trying to build out of the portable time period that we had. So a lot of historical and how we got here, but a complicating factor is that literally every single building is unique in its floor plan.
Yeah.
And age, obviously, and what kind of spaces it had when it was built or didn't versus like a full-size classroom, offices, small spaces for services.
The
It
biggest
is a
problem
challenge.
in any build of a school is not allowing the architects to go out on their own without some guidance from the educators.
Yeah.
Because their main goal is to design something spectacular. You know, and this is no fault of they're creative folks. They want to be recognized, magazines, you know, awards, and a lot of time some of the materials, and you know, I've had a couple of projects that I've been superintendent sits on the school building committee in the previous district or a representative, which I had the privilege of doing that for many years. And, you know, money can be put into programming needs rather than to beautification of buildings. Also, functionality doesn't always match up with what the schools need to what maybe will look aesthetically beautiful, you know, courtyards and, you know, 100-foot, whatever, entryways that are just wasted space that you have to heat, you have to cool.
You gotta teach kids.
Right. And you want,
I want the buildings to look nice, but then.
Exactly.
You know, I get that. I totally understand that. But it seems like though, if you get to like, you know, 32, 33, with all this stuff done though, it seems like you've got.
Maintenance and upkeep.
But it also seems to me like you've got the facilities infrastructure on a sort of a sane.
We hit a
footing.
plateau. Yep.
Right, because to your point, I don't know all the history and I wasn't here for any of that stuff, but it just seems like stuff was done.
And we're still.
Okay, we need a building, okay, let's build a building, and then, okay, we need another building, let's build another building, just stuff was done on the fly. And, you know, what I would like to see, and I think, you know, what Brenda's trying to work towards is regularity, if you, for lack of a better word, you know, and how this stuff is handled going forward.
I just think the caveat will be that no matter what we do, everything is not built in 2030.
Sure,
So now we're back to the oldest
We-
building,
right.
right,
completely get that.
right.
Yeah.
The pipes, whatever it may be, right? I mean,
when it comes to the AC projects, preventative maintenance is going to be key to making sure that you're not replacing these things
Yeah.
way ahead of what the lifespan can be. And that's one of the problems. Number one, preventative maintenance, and number two, not downsizing units to save a couple of dollars, because that's what usually ends up happening. That's why you get an AC project that's over budget. The first thing to cut corners is let's start downsizing, let's try to make it work within the numbers, and then you're replacing it and people are turning around or it's breaking down. Well, isn't it under warranty? Or, you know, we just did that 5 years ago. Well, you didn't do it right 5 years ago, so we're back at this place. So to stick to the extra dollars now, it'll probably save a lot of money down.
Well, I think that's the problem. I mean, again, I wasn't here. I can't speak for what decisions were made, but it sounds to me like those kind of decisions have created some of the stuff we're trying way out of now.
They talk a lot at the board meetings and, you know, during this whole redistricting. The cutting of just a small number of square feet from the Mill Hill project has created a problem. That's being short-sighted. Had you not done that, wouldn't have the problems when you're trying to do something that would ultimately benefit the district. So I think that's why it's important that we don't cut corners to cause bigger issues down the road. That's where, you know, some of those things that.
Coffee and talk about the history of some of these things that are still on here from 15
let's
years
not-
ago, if you
If
want.
you don't learn from.
Happy to fill you in
If you
on
don't
some
learn
of those
from those
decisions.
mistakes and you just repeat them, then you're just as foolish as the people that
Yeah.
came before us, so.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And I get it. As a taxpayer, you don't want to see your
No.
taxes go up,
So
but
like, right, so that's like how I look at it, right? So, you know, again, I'm just a member of the RTM, right? But, you know, one of my goals would be, okay, how do we, you know, minimize taxpayer expense? But to your point,
you're gonna pay one way or another.
right, and so it's reasonable. Do I pay a little more now to ensure that I'm not paying more?
A lot more later.
Yes. That to me is.
That has not been historically, but
Right.
some of the philosophy.
Right. But, you know, that doesn't, you know, it doesn't obviate the need of, you know, trying to manage these things.
Within what the, you know, obviously we understand, you know, within what the town.
Yeah, and the things that concern me too, obviously, which are things that are out of everybody in this room's control is, you know, you don't know what kind of an inflationary environment, even an interest rate environment, we're gonna be in 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now. And
Absolutely.
that's gonna have a significant impact on a lot of these costs as well. So anyway, that was,
And I'm hopeful that as some of this mad spending of the Art Besser money is coming to a close, that you're gonna see things start to stabilize a little bit more, especially around the AC projects, because that's been a mad dash nationwide of spending all this money on air quality and air conditioning. Those projects should be coming to a conclusion in most districts that are not fortunate like Fairfield. to
And I
have
will
the
say that
ability
Fairfield, we
to
do
invest.
put ourselves a little bit on putting the town and us in a position to go after any additional state or federal funding. I will say that just the DTC reports alone, you know, we asked for that money to do those reports, which set us up to apply for the grants, which a lot of towns did not have and lost out, and we got $6.2 million, right? Just be like keeping ahead of seeing that vision, what might be coming from federal or state, and putting ourselves in a situation where we're ready to go after that. It is also always on the board, and I know the administration
Yeah, no,
is
I
pointing
mean-
to make sure that we're, hey, this might be coming, these are the steps we need to take to be
We're on
ready.
it, trying to get round two. I don't know.
Yeah,
A
right.
lot of other people were upset that they missed out on.
They weren't ready to apply. There were some things like Angela spoke to that you had to have in place that we got in place.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate that. And, you know, we can get other people to pick up the tab on stuff, right? Even though we don't have to pay for it
Well,
in
right.
other ways, but I think everybody gets my drift on
Well, a
that.
lot of it is ARPA money too, yeah, but yeah.
I ask, follow-up kind of procedural and what the board's gonna be looking at tonight and what they're gonna be voting on, or
We're voting on the 5 projects that are not the vestibules tonight, the capital projects. And then, well, like Angela said, he's asking for the roofs, I think Monday, right? And to move the vestibules into the committee on Monday, Board of Selectmen. And then Angela will determine when he needs to be on the town body's agendas and make those requests accordingly.
but so the rest of the out years on this,
Oh, the out years.
yeah,
I meant for this year. The report.
both. Both, yeah, I want to know about both, but the out years, you know, years, whatever, 3 through 10, are you guys voting on those as well?
Well, we don't normally vote on them until we have backup with greater detail. Yeah,
So
no.
there's no approval of the plan of the 10-year plan by the board of,
Well, there is an approval of the plan, so to speak, that we say, we're gonna talk about it tonight. You mean the waterfall? Yes, we're gonna talk about this tonight. It's a living, working document, understood, just like the towns is, right? These numbers can change, as we know, as we get the better design numbers, and the board, yes, will give its consent, so to speak, for us to go to the capital planning workshop and come back, you know, and talk about these numbers, that this is what we're using going forward. And of
So-
course, you know, next year it's gonna be different, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
like the town will be different.
yeah, but I guess it could be wildly different, depending on what your assumption is about future HVAC projects and Dwight and how those two, like when you look at the cash flow, you know, you guys have pulled out I get it. I understand why you pulled out the HVAC projects
So we get the better numbers.
until you get the better numbers. So when the board either does or doesn't give their blessing to the plan overall, are they doing that assuming that you have layered on to to Dwight HVAC as well, or not?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Are you, so when you are looking for,
Approval.
approval, whatever you want to call it, of the board
On this long-range waterfall,
on the waterfall, on the capital plan, are you assuming that it has both Dwight in it and the HVAC phases, each of the phases of the HVAC in there, or not?
I am assuming that the answer is yes.
So it's
All
a
we-
$200 million package, it's not a $120 million
Exactly.
package.
Exactly.
Okay.
Again, working document, as soon as we
Yeah,
numbers, those will be added into here.
They will be added in, but again, too, I mean, maybe once we get a phase two, which is Tomlinson for air conditioning project, maybe that slides forwards a year and Dwight stays where it is, or maybe Dwight fits better if we move the project forwards a year, because we'll have better planning because we have that 2-year window, and then the Tomlinson slides behind it. And so we'll adjust. We will our intention is never to come and say, okay, we need $90 million this year. You know,
So I just want to be clear, the AC projects are actually on the waterfall.
yes,
They're just not in your cash flow.
right.
So we're
Right.
talking about the waterfall tonight.
Okay.
They are on here. Yes.
That's what I was curious about.
Okay, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
The board remains committed to ensuring we have mechanical means of fresh air and temperature and humidity control on all of our buildings.
And the additional for Fairfield Woods, is that, how do you view that? I guess there was some question when this first came up as to whether or not this was coming out of the town's allocation or the Board of Ed's allocation. What's your view on that?
No, I think the building committee, I mean, I think, obviously, I think that this is for schools. But the building committee is gonna come to you guys and we'll discuss it with you. Like, I don't wanna talk to or speak for the building committee on this. I don't sit on that building committee. So
we did put
it is originally it is in the cash flow and it is on our chart. So, yeah. Again, that's all in our documents we've provided. Just joking.
I'm glad that you followed up and I got it.
Anything else?
What else from me?
You good?
I'm good.
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 Yeah, thank you.
Are you good? That's the question.
I'm great.
And good luck.
Thank you.
He says.
Anyway, the point is for fiscal year 25, in particular for the projects that you will see this year. So questions on those specifically.
No.
Those are the ones that we'll be looking for approvals for.
Yep. The two roofs.
Yeah.
We can.
Those are really what's
be on
before
the-
us for the next upcoming year.
We're on the Board of Selectmen, we're on the RTM, we're on the Board of Finance, so.
Perfect.
So I haven't done anything as far as, the vestibules. The only two resolutions that
The roofs.
worked on were the two roofs.
Yes, that's, so. those are
Actually,
the-
it's actually a single resolution.
Yeah, and those are the two we're going for. We're gonna go, the rest of these, we will follow the normal process
Okay.
after the RT, or not RTM, the Board of Finance Summit, then we will move forwards with, I would assume with the group for the town, for DPW, all the capital non-reoccurring projects that will be coming before all the bodies
Yeah,
that we put
yeah, we'll do
together.
a package.
Angela, just to be clear,
Usual.
for on Monday at the Board of Selectmen agenda, you are asking for, I think, 5 projects to be added to the AC Building Committee.
2, 3, 4, and 5. So, yes.
Including the ward.
So the three, we sent the wording over to Brenda's office already. So the 3 vestibule projects will be added to the building committee. The
Stratfield Road.
North Stratfield roof will be added to the building committee, and the ward rooftop replacement unit will be added to the building committee. And the only other thing we just updated is the board of the building committee has been asked to be renamed, so that will be on.
Oh,
Yes. They no longer want to be known as the AC Building Committee.
oh, what do they want to be named as?
I don't have it with me. I apologize.
Grand Imperial Building.
Maybe.
They want to know.
Okay. Good.
Right, yeah, we're good. Yep, we're done.
All right.
Are we making a motion to adjourn? Or
We
is
don't
there-
have to.
We don't have to.
It's not a voting body.
Oh, it's not. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you.